Hey ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about Ripple and XRP, as well as the vast majority of crypto and finance. And with that being said, I hope that you are all having a beautiful day or a beautiful night, if you guys are out there in the world. So one of the most talked about topics on this channel is regulations. Regulations are very, very important to focus on. If you have been in crypto for a while, and if you continue to be in crypto after this cycle and plan to be, I highly suggest you start focusing on and studying regulations. Why? Because this is going to be the next big thing around crypto. This is going to put crypto in the spotlight for mass adoption. But the problem is that fewer than 30% of jurisdictions globally have started regulating crypto. And this is actually from the FATF chief. Now, they're doing this thing where it's call to action, right? Here's the call to action. The boss of the global money laundering and terrorist financing watchdog said it was the first such report addressing the concern that a lack of regulation creates significant loopholes for both criminals and terrorists to exploit, and is a call to action that we need countries to take this problem seriously. Now, obviously, yes, right? Like, we need regulations around this space. I've talked about it 100 times over. But what is going to accelerate regulations? What's going to push regulations into the go live zone for a lot of these nations, or at least make them plan, regulations around crypto? Well, right now, currently, we have a lot of areas around the world looking into regulatory sweeps of crypto, or at least trying to have some sort of regulatory sandbox or framework in place for crypto. For an example, Indonesia recently announced that they will require crypto products to pass through a regulatory sandbox or be deemed illegal. Outside of this, Singapore enacts licensing requirements for crypto custody services and others, followed by stablecoin delistings in Europe, spell change for crypto exchanges. Also, another big deal to focus on, stablecoin regulatory moves. The landscape is 100% shifting. We know that post-MiCA, after June 30th, if a stablecoin is no longer compliant, we could expect changes or exchanges to drop it from the exchange for European customers. So, listen, MiCA is putting a lot of pressure on crypto in terms of regulatory movement. This is going to be the accelerator. I personally see MiCA as setting the stage for regulations. From there, we will see pretty much every single major nation moving fast on regulations. And I do address this 30% in the beginning of this video because I see this 30% growing drastically over the course of the next 12 months after MiCA is live. Now, we also know that the UK has been playing catch up. UK crypto regulation is catching up to other markets while maintaining bottom-up benefits investment week. Like I said, back in 2023 and even in 2022, the race is on. Back in 2022, it was focused on stablecoins, right? The great stablecoin race is on. That's what Ripple actually put out. It was a report talking about stablecoins and how pretty much every single nation is moving and racing towards having a stablecoin of their own. But at the same time, regulations, right? Events are accelerating regulations. FTX was a great example of an event that accelerated regulatory moves around crypto. From here on out, the race is on. All of these nations will want to play catch up. The UK is a big one because I do think that they will follow the EU very closely once the EU does go fully live with MiCA. But outside of this, there's been a lot of other moves happening around crypto regulations. Even going over to regulation news from Cointelegraph, we could see some of the big announcements around regulatory moves. In the US, we still have this big problem with the SEC being the main ones to really kind of just push the narrative around regulatory moves, but they're really not doing much at all. If anything, they're breaking more things than trying to fix. But outside of the US, guys, regulatory moves are happening at a very, very rapid pace. Now, like I said, this is only going to continue. One of the recent things that I noticed is exchanges cracking down. So MEXC, you guys know, MEXC has been a chosen exchange of the channel. I loved MEXC because of the access to all of the best and early gems out there. Now it seems as though I'm going to be moving over to a DEX heavily because, as you guys do see, a lot of people got this email talking about how, due to their terms of services, they have detected that individuals are utilizing MEXC in a country or region where it's not available, where the services are actually restricted. This is all due to regulatory moves. And if you don't have KYC in place in terms of KYC verification, by June 30th, they are going to wipe your account. This is a big problem, but this has been happening with a lot of exchanges. Qcoin is a perfect example of this as well. Now, again, for US-based customers, access to a lot of these early investment opportunities is getting more and more restricted. Now, I'm not going to say, hey, they're restricting retail, but this is a big problem, right? Because this is only going to continue and continue and continue. The big issue that I have is just US-based friendly exchanges. There really isn't much of them at all. Coinbase is pretty much like the only one outside of Uphold, but these exchanges are terrible. If I'm being completely honest with you guys, the number one thing that I really loved about MEXC was the 0% spot fees. Guys, there was like 0 fees at all for trading on MEXC in terms of spot, which was a huge deal. You go and make a transaction on Coinbase, you're getting charged like $50, $30 every single transaction. It's highway robbery. And using a DEX, you're getting hit with gas fees. So as a US-based customer, I mean, what are we going to do going forward? Well, there's really only one major move. That's to get residency in like Palau, for example, and start utilizing these exchanges through like a VPN. But all of this is just a big obstacle in the way to actually get access to any of these early investments. And even then, your account could still be, shut down because they are noticing that you're using a VPN. This is a problem, but this is only going to continue and continue and continue. But one of the biggest things that I've been fully focused on with regulations is what it means for assets like XRP, right? There was a recent post by Anderson that I found very, very interesting, and it was article on the new instant payments regulations in Europe. Banks will be forced to offer instant payments within Europe at the same cost as regular transfers. If users can send a payment instantly instead of one that takes 24 hours at the same cost, why would they choose the slower option? They won't. In other words, when these regulations start to apply, instant payments within Europe will quickly take over. This is the same exact thing with every single nation out there. Everywhere around the world is moving towards regulations, standardization with ISO 20022, and all of that leads to one thing: instant payments. Here we have January 31st, 2024, new EU instant payments legislation has European banks scrambling. Over here, new EU legislation now gives them 9 months. As a result of the higher cost and lack of adoption, only 14% of all SEPA credit transfers were instant payments by May 2023. If users can send a payment instantly instead of one that takes 24 hours at the same cost, why would they choose the slower option? They won't. A massive surge in throughput is going to happen. Then also over here, implementing SCT Instant was never easy, which is why many banks haven't done it yet. Now they don't have a choice. 9-month deadline. And this is the same exact thing with ISO 20022. In fact, I think I just recently liked a post regarding this actually from Anderson. Again, big shout to Anderson. Worth to post again, Bob Way, former Ripple employee on ISO 20022, but just for clarity, ISO 20022 is way bigger than you think. At first, the reason this 20022 transition is extremely helpful to Ripple's bank sales team is this means that every bank is required to implement new technology. This is why we fully focus on ISO 20022 and what it means for a company like Ripple and what it means for XRP, because remember, Ripple's technology for instant payments is utilizing XRP. Instant payments, faster payments, it's all a focus, even of the elites. The IMF recently put out a post on April 2nd The global average cost of sending $200 from one country to another was about $12.50 in the first quarter of 2023, or 6.25%, according to the World Bank. Cheaper cross-border payment services would benefit people and economies worldwide. They are preparing us for what's coming because, listen, they know, as well as we know, that ISO 2022, in terms of the migration milestones, big shout out to CryptoNerd for this, we are getting closer than ever before. We know that this year, 2024, there's a lot of movement happening around ISO 2022, specifically April, this month, US chips, April 2024, go live, ISO 2022, and commercial rollout of joint cross-border payments venture with TCH, SWIFT, and EBA. And then, by November, Australia, mandatory removal of MT, looking to adopt purpose codes, LEI, and other enhanced data. But even beyond that, guys, 2025 is the big focus because by the end of 2025, everything will be running on ISO 2022 rails. Now, the big thing is, could there be delays? Could there be, problems? Yeah, and they could push it to another date. But regardless, the number one thing to focus on here is moves being made behind the scenes. But even outside of the IMF, the BIS, guys, the BIS has been pushing faster payment approaches and white papers behind this. They actually have key design features for the adoption of fast payments, user, infrastructure, rules, governance. That infrastructure layer there, settlement system and other technologies. Guys, what's the other technologies? What's the settlement system? They don't tell us. But the BIS has been talking about faster payments for a very long time. This is actually a full-on video talking about what are faster payment systems, how they are useful. They even include that graphic from this post as well. Again, they've been going crazy all through March regarding faster payments. And it's all regarding faster payment adoption tends to be higher when a central bank owns the system, when non-banks participate, and when the number of use cases and cross-border payment connections is greater. And everyone will say, oh, well, that means that Ripple's done. People are forgetting the connections here. Just like the BIS, just like the IMF, SWIFT has also been talking about enhancing cross-border payments. This is all with the G20 targets in mind. This was March 18th. Remember, the CPMI group is all catering to the G20 movement behind cross-border payments. This is all alluring to what the G20 is trying to do. Look at the names on here. This is the CPMI group. You have SWIFT on here with Ripple, and this is all through the BIS. And if we scroll down, we can also see the payment service providers, banks and non-banks. Look at the bank names here. Look at the names of some of these big banks. Look at the associations as well. Again, when we really look at what's going on here, the connections are deeper than what most people are alluring to. But it's at the same exact time that everyone's made to think that SWIFT is the bad guy. They will never utilize Ripple at all. For the longest time, we kept hearing about how, hey, guess what? SWIFT hates Ripple. Ripple hates SWIFT. They are competing against one another. This could not be further from the truth, but this video here from 707 Crypto, SWIFT banned Ripple from CBOS, which led to the creation of Ripple Swell. Check this out.
And SWIFT has an annual event called CBOS. And in 2016, it was held in Singapore. And so we had some of our people there as well. And all the crowds were at Ripple in CBOS. And so SWIFT was looking at this going, what the hell? The following year, they held their event in Toronto. And I was there, and but they banned Ripple from being there. So Ripple, being entrepreneurial and smart, they created their own event called Swell. And Swell was set up almost next door to where CBOS was. And guess what? Guess who showed up at Swell and guess who didn't show up at CBOS? It was an interesting time, and watching them morph and figure out their model. But at the end of the day, and I think that's really where they're at right now. So as a settlement for the corresponding banking model.
So yeah, I mean, this is kind of funny that SWIFT was looking at Ripple as like the bad guy, but also remember this video as well. Big shout out to XRP Daily for this. SWIFT will be put out of business by Ripple.
And someone at the back stood up and said, this doesn't matter at all because you're all going to be put out of business by Ripple. And I'd never heard of Ripple at the time. And I thought, and they said, Swift is going to be put out of business by Ripple. And I thought, that's quite handy. I'll phone up Swift and see what they think. That'll make a good story for the paper. And Swift said, actually, we're taking this really seriously. We think it could affect us in lots of ways. And they were publishing white papers. They still are publishing white papers. That's as far as they've got. And someone at the back stood.
Now, what's funny about this is the fact that, all right, well, if Swift is looking at Ripple as a major enemy, right? And they're saying, all right, well, this is actually a big deal because it seems as though Ripple is gaining a lot on us. And they're, again, they even banned Ripple from a major event. And then they saw all of these big banks going to Ripple's event. And they're like, all right, well, again, this is becoming a serious problem. What is going on? Well, when we think about this, wouldn't it be in Swift's best interest to get on the good side of Ripple and say, all right, well, maybe we need to start looking into this technology? Well, we know that actually happened. And we know that it seems as though Swift will be utilizing Ripple and XRP in the near future because of ISO 20022 and the big move, towards it. And then we have the CPMI group with Ripple and Swift on the same exact financial infrastructure list. It kind of shows you that they're already here together, but it's also, it's so funny when you look at these documents because this is from Smoke Dog, right? And I included this in a recent video and it says, ask yourself, why would Swift cite Ripple and XRP specifically in two different documents about improving cross-border payments if using Ripple's technology wasn't in their plan? Again, there was even a video that actually confirmed that this document was legit. I'm not going to play the video because, again, I included it in a recent video before, but this is the first one, right? Context, bank disintermediation. This is from Swift. You have Ripple at the forefront. And then also on the right side, we also have how Ripple could settle through Corda. This is settlement on Corda. And again, this is from Swift. And then you also have that at that bottom point, XRP. And when we also go over to this image here recently from March 25th, technology company Ripple developing an interledger protocol that can interact with banks' existing infrastructure plus Swift. And again, here we have financial technology company Ripple is developing an interledger protocol that could help blockchains interact with banks' existing infrastructure, Swift. And what's funny about this is that when we think about how big of a move it is for Ripple to be at the forefront of this major transition from antiquated systems to new age technologies and systems. And we know that ISO 22 remains at the forefront. I just talked about Volante technologies just the other day with XRP and Ripple. We know Swift is on there as well. We know that Swift is just messaging, right? Everyone at this point is aware that Swift is just messaging. So in order for them to actually streamline settlements, it would be in their best interest to tap into new technologies. Again, I just see the idea of Swift working with Ripple as being anything outside of competition, meaning it would be complementary for both of these companies to work together. Now, does that mean that Ripple needs Swift? No, but it would be great for them to work with Swift, considering the fact that Swift still has over 11,000 plus financial institutions and banks tied to their name. But as I've said, look at the connections, read between the lines. We already know that Ripple is here. We already know that Swift knows about Ripple. We know that Swift was more scared of Ripple than Ripple of Swift because, again, they knew that Ripple was coming for their food. And even today, more than ever before, in my opinion, Ripple becomes a major giant. They are a major giant. Swift knows that they are a major giant. It just makes sense for Swift to tap into Ripple. But all these documents, everything that we've been seeing from Swift really kind of alerts to the idea that Ripple and XRP are already tapped in. It's pretty much something that we could look forward to seeing announced at some point in time in the future. And I really do think that this is when everything will change. But we still need a few things in place, like regulations and even ISO 20022 fully adopted worldwide. We're still a few years away from that. But regardless, I don't think that we're that far away. It's probably about roughly a year or even 2 years away before we have mass adoption and utility of DLT, blockchain-based technology in the real world. And it's not just going to be Ripple and XRP, it's going to be many players, but XRP will definitely see a lot of traction and volume as well. So with that being said, I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on for more free content. You guys are more than welcome to follow me on Twitter and join for Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, this has been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.